welcome in. I'm very excited to be a part of something so important. Very excited. We get to have friends like Gina Hawks and Andy and Jane Albright. I get to be on this adventure with my amazing husband, Jake. A lot of you guys saw his talk with Mark Burrows and Brandon Bulis earlier. People we've been to war with for real, and in every level of euphemism you can think of. And so today, they have asked me to talk about grit and grace. Grit and grace, really how to go from bombs to babies to business. And other than the letter B, most of those things have nothing in common on the surface. But what I have found is that life is actually just a pattern. And when you can recognize the pattern, you can apply your success principles everywhere. And so one of the things we're going to go into is how to navigate different obstacles on here. So a little bit about my background is I grew up in southeastern Kentucky, a very, very impoverished rural area. And it was a place where poverty wasn't just a way of life. Poverty was like in the DNA of the people there. Poverty rooted so deep, generation after generation after generation, that they had lost hope. Where a career path was, how quickly can I get on some government assistance program? I used to joke and say that there's two options for work where I'm from. You can work in the welfare office or you can stand in line in it. But that's pretty much it. So when I was 13 years old, an Army recruiter came to my high school and he said something that blew my mind. And I know it's probably the cheesiest thing the Army ever came out with, but it hooked me. And he stood there and he said, with the Army, you can be all you can be. And that's the first time anyone ever spoke of something more, of something bigger, of something better, of something different. And I couldn't help it. At the age of 13, I knew that's what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do in the Army, but I'm joining the Army. And so that's what I did. It was my way out of where I'm from. So let's get a little bit into some nerd work here. We got to make sure we're speaking the same language. So grit, I had to look it up. I know what it feels like. I know what it is ideally is, but it's courage and resolve or strength of character. Well, what's character? The mental and moral qualities distinctive to an individual. Okay, all right, we all have our qualities that we are known by. But to develop sound mental and moral qualities takes discipline. And discipline is something that they taught me in the military. So the discipline to do what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it. And that helped me learn my first principle of discipline. Discipline keeps you focused on your mission. Without discipline, you're constantly open to distractions. When I joined the military, I enlisted to be an explosive ordnance disposal technician. That's the Army speak for bomb squad. And I was excited. I thought this is going to be a grand adventure. And I had learned through all the military propaganda, all good cults have good propaganda, right? So they had good propaganda, that I was going to be on a team, and we were going to do things as a team, and we were going to conquer things, and we were going to have a common goal and common mission. And I was very excited about that. And I was on some great teams when I was in the military. But y'all ever been put on a team where one of the teammates really wasn't playing all out? How about being put on a team where not only were they not playing all out, they didn't want the rest of the team to win? I met a few of those. When I joined the military as an explosive ordnance disposal technician, less than 1% of that field was female. And that's all right. That was an emerging opportunity for ladies at that time. But there was a handful of people that didn't like that was opening up to others. And throughout my training, these people that were supposed to be my mentors, my teachers, my guides, there was a few of them who flat out told me, you don't belong here. We don't want you here. There was one in particular, I'll never forget this man. I won't say his name this time to protect the name of the guilty. But when I got to that point in my training, I was about halfway through this school. This was a 9-month training course. It was one of the most academically challenging courses in the military. And all services went to the same school. There's very few schools like that, but it was run by the Navy on an Air Force installation, and all services attended. And there was this particular leader there. He pulled me aside. I'd been in this course about 5 months, and he said, I don't have a legitimate reason to kick you out of here, so I'm just going to work you until you quit. Just going to work you until you quit. So every day when we go and do our physical training, when we go do our PT and we run, we're going to run until you throw up. Every day. Every day. Now, I was in a class with about 25 men. 25 men. Who in here knows that women and men are built differently? Yeah. Yeah. And so we go out there every day to run. They're bigger. They're faster, they're stronger, and they have more stamina. But you know what they don't have? They don't have more stubborn. I was raised with 2 sisters. Drama is a competition. We went out and we ran every day until I threw up. And sometimes it didn't take a lot, and sometimes I was so determined that, it ain't going to happen today. But it happened every day. But as it happened, I could look at that experience and say, this is humiliating, because it was. Or I could look at this experience and say, they can't break me. See, I get to choose on how I look at that. And so I decided, they can't break me. And I decided every day I was going to do my best not to throw up, even though it still happened. Because at the end of the day, this was not a physical challenge. This was a mental challenge. Most of life's challenges are mental challenges. And so as this continued throughout this course, I continued to progress. Yes, I struggled. Yes, it wasn't always pretty. Yes, it wasn't always perfect. But I made it through. I made it through to the end. Because the discipline of deciding not to quit applies everywhere in your life. When I joined the military, there were people back where I was from that made fun of me. There was people said, literally, people that I loved and that I looked up to said, the military is going to chew you up and spit you out. I couldn't let them be right. Well, now I am here with this person who is literally chewing me up and spitting me out, and I was like, I can't let them be right. Jane said it best. When things are hard, you just do this. One more step. Each day, as this was happening, it built my confidence to know I am stronger than this. I am stronger than this. I would get up every day and tell myself, I am stronger than this. And when I finished that course, this is what it looked like when I graduated. This person was not happy about the fact that I graduated. I was immensely happy. But I could choose to focus on that, or I could choose to focus on this, because this was my husband back from his first deployment. He had already been over to the Middle East, already faced what was going to be a big part of our lives, and he made it back. So not only was my hater in that room, but so was my lover. So I get to choose. I get to choose what to focus on. I love this picture. I love this picture because I know for us, we can overcome things. We can do hard things. Anybody else in here know you can do hard things? I'm going to tell you some things that happened in my life, but y'all got stuff in yours too. But you get to decide how to look at it. You get to decide how to look at it. So I had a lot of fun in the military. I got to do some cool stuff, some technical stuff. And I learned that when life closes a door, you just blow it open. Just go for it. Just go for it. There's a lot less rules in life than what I thought there was. I used to think there was a rule that people like me can't win. I used to think that people like me don't get out. People like me don't get to have what other people have. Blow that door open. It is not really there. It is only in your mind. Military also taught me my second principle of discipline. Discipline provides you with a sense of calm. Without discipline, you're more easily overwhelmed with anxiety. Beware of the temptation to give up what you want most for what you want right now. When you can experience calm during chaos, you can stay focused on what your true mission is. Sometimes chaos is thrust upon you. Some of y'all saw this earlier. This is Copar Towers, June 1996. Truck bomb went off outside of the barracks. 19 service people died. Hundreds and hundreds were injured. My husband and I were 2 of those. That is the front half of that building. Or the back half, front half is in a pile. This is the crater that was left. I don't know if you can see, those are human beings standing on the edge of that. Look like tiny little ants. 35 feet deep, 85 feet wide. When life blows up on us, sometimes it's not figuratively, but sometimes those explosions come in the form of a diagnosis, a death, a divorce. Life blows up on all of us. But when we recognize the pattern of it is a battle of the mind, it is a battle of the spirit, then you know how to win the game. Even when it looks unwinnable. Even when it looks like it's the darkest of dark. Deuteronomy 31:6 says, "Be strong and of good courage. Do not fear nor be afraid of them. For the Lord your God, he is the one who goes with you. He will not leave you nor forsake you." When you have that inside of you, other explosions in your life just look like this. Ain't nothing but a thing. Y'all, that's my friends in that video clip. That's real. It's not fake, not CGI. It's my friends. We've learned how to handle the explosions of life. Discipline principle. Discipline boosts your confidence. Without discipline, you're often filled with insecurity. Having left my childhood through the gateway of the military taught me a lot. And I felt like I was a pretty confident person. I'd done a lot of things. I'd overcome a lot. And then something happened that scared me to death. Scariest thing that ever happened in my life. I had a baby. Anybody else have a baby? It's downright scary. I was like, what if I mess this up? That's got some repercussions right there, right? After 8 years in the military, we had children, and it was a struggle to be 2 active duty people with 2 young children and to stay married and to stay a family and to stay healthy. And so I decided to trade my Army stripes for baby wipes to stay home and raise our children. Now, the bomb squad taught me a lot. We used to have, it's called Render Safe Procedures, RSPs, right? Render Safe Procedures. Did you know there's no RSP for a 4-year-old with a stomach virus? Nope, that thing's gonna blow. Your job is to limit the range of damage. That's all you can do. I remember a time when my son, he was, this is my son, y'all, my firstborn. He was probably about 4. So my daughter was just learning to walk. She's about 1.5 years. And he was sick. He had a stomach virus. And we had taught him when you need to throw up, you run to the bathroom or the kitchen because there's no carpet there, right? You can clean that up. Well, he jumps off the couch and he starts running toward the kitchen. And I know what that means. He's about to blow. Well, my daughter, who is just learning how to walk and talk, she thinks we're playing. So she tries to run after us. And so we get in the kitchen, and my son, he barely makes it. And instinct, I don't know why, limit the spread of contamination, I stick my hands out to catch this stuff. Lord help me. Sometimes I just ain't right. Don't laugh, because I know y'all ain't either. So I try to catch this stuff, and it's shooting out, and then here comes my daughter running through. And it is everywhere, and she steps in it, and she falls, and she slides across the kitchen right in it. And there's my son. Now he starts to scream because his sister's covered in his vomit. I'm covered in vomit. He's crying, and I stood there, and I thought, I used to protect the President of the United States of America. Today, I stand in my kitchen covered in vomit. Life can humble us. Confident, proud, overcomer. No, I'm mom. I'm mom. It is my favorite title, by the way. This is my son and my daughter. I like this picture because they're so sweet together. It's probably the last time they ever were. Once they learned to talk, it was all over but the crying then. But what breaks my heart about this picture is the one you don't see. The one in the middle. When my son was 1.5 years old, I was pregnant. And at about 5 months pregnant, Jake had to leave and go on a training. I was in Washington State at the time. That's where we were stationed. I was still active duty military. And he was back in Alabama. And I started having complications to the pregnancy. And I had to go in the hospital. So I called a friend of mine to come take my 1.5-year-old son so I can go into the hospital. And things didn't turn out well. And we lost our child. And it was a very rare form of cancer. But it was strange because I didn't have the cancer, my baby did. So the cancer was in me, but it wasn't mine. When I lost our baby, they told me there's a high likelihood that those cancer cells had spread to my brain, spine, or lungs. And I had to be tested. And I went through 2 weeks of testing. Not just medical testing, y'all. Tested my faith. Tested my strength. I've often wondered why this happened. Why did we go through this? But I know God works all things to the good of those who follow him. And it was in that hospital bed that I recommitted my life to Christ. When I was by myself at the death of my child, unable to reach my other child, my husband across the country, no family there. I thought I was at rock bottom, but I found the one who's at rock bottom with me. Most comforting verse I ever read, John 11:35. Jesus wept. I'd known God as my Savior. I'd known God as my warrior. I'd known God as my strength. But in that moment, that was the God that wept with me. And I didn't know how much I was going to need that side of my God throughout the rest of my life. So my child's life was not in vain. It served a great purpose. And I can't wait to hug them someday when we get there. That test was coming very soon. Because when my daughter, who actually she was born on the day that I miscarried the year before. On the day. This is how old she was when she was diagnosed with autism. And the doctor told us she may never communicate with another human being. Not just not talk, never communicate. But I live with a God who weeps with me. I live with a God that tells me things like Philippians 4:6-7. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. I was not at peace with this diagnosis. I was not okay. I was messed up for about a week. But God blessed me with a wise husband. Sometimes gets on my nerves, says inappropriate things at inappropriate times. God love him. But this is what he said to me. After a week of being in this fog where I couldn't seem to function, he said, if Heidi has autism, what are we going to, oh, no, he said, if she does not have autism, what are we going to do? Love her, care for her, and raise her up in the way that she should go. He said, now, if she does have autism, what are we going to do? love her, care for her, and raise her up in the way that she should go. So what difference does it make? The way we love her, the way we care for her may look different, but it doesn't change what we're doing. See, it's the patterns. It's a mind game. It's a mind shift. Y'all, Satan be throwing stuff at all of us. If you can recognize his tactics, if you can recognize your source, if you can associate with people who understand, they can't win. He can't win. Some of y'all in here have met my daughter. She's been to conferences. Not only does she speaks 2 languages. Not only does she communicate with human beings, she has 2 YouTube channels that have like 80,000 subscribers on it. Most people, in fact, Andy Albright texted me before conference, says, "Hey, is Heidi coming?" I said, "No." He said, "Okay." You didn't want to ask me anything? No, just if my girl's coming. Oh, she's amazing. She's amazing. But what I've noticed is when you're going through stuff like this, my kids play video games. Any of y'all or your kids play video games? Do you ever hear anything called like boss battle? Like you go through levels and then all of a sudden there's a boss battle? Life has boss battles. So my husband had to deploy again. And this time it was going to be a doozy. This one was going to be a 1.5 years. Anybody ever spent a week away from their spouse? 2 weeks? 3 weeks? 4 weeks? 6 months? 12 months? 15 months? Life hurts sometimes. This is when I learned to pray the hardest prayer I ever prayed. Because what I had to take with Philippians 4, 6, and 7, I'll read it again. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving. Let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. But y'all, my husband was at war. I had an 8-year-old son. He's pretty smart. He said, my dad's a soldier. Yep. My dad went to war. Yep. Soldiers die in war. Yep. Is my daddy going to die? Can't you just ask me where babies come from? Can we just do that one? How do you answer that? You can't say no, but you can't say yes. So what you say is be anxious for nothing, and you pray that prayer. But then you got to tag on Matthew 26:39. Lord, not my will, but yours. Every time we heard of a downed helicopter on the news, and you'd pray that prayer, and the guilt afterwards, because in praying that prayer of protection over my husband was in essence of me asking God for it to be someone else's. One of my friends. One of the dads of the kids I babysit. How do you pray that prayer? With the peace of God that transcends all understanding. See, discipline will prepare you to be calm in the chaos. Discipline will prepare you to be focused on the mission. Discipline will also position you for the next level of opportunities. Without discipline, you're not prepared for the future. I didn't know what God's answer was going to be over the course of 15 plus deployments. I didn't know what God's answer was going to be when I said, God, how do I take care of these children by myself? Our daughter has unique needs. I'm tired. I'm overstimulated. I'm worried. But Jesus wept, remember? Jesus knows. And so the discipline of staying plugged in to what you know is the foundation with the keys to the mindset of how to protect yourself and your family and to just level up. Because you guys ever hear the story of David and Goliath? Yeah, he went out there and fought the giant. But if you go back a few chapters, he fought a bear. He fought a lion. Y'all, he was a shepherd. You know he had to fight some foxes and some other things coming after those sheep. We level up in life. If you keep fighting the same predator Ask yourself, why am I not leveling up? How have I not defeated this one so I can move on to the next one? My kids learn that in the video games. They have to play those different levels to get to the next one. But if you keep losing at the same spot, you've got to ask yourself why. You've got to seek out somebody who's been there before. The discipline of reaching out for mentorship, the discipline of understanding it. I don't have all the answers, but I have access. I have access to all the answers. So when those next opportunities come along, y'all, you know what my kids went and done? They grew up. And so I done worked myself out of another job. And my son got into college 2 years early. And I was so proud of him because you know what? We homeschooled. And the whole time you're homeschooling, you're thinking, I'm screwing him up bad. I've done messed this whole thing up. And then when he takes that test to get into school and he's getting in 2 years early, I was like, I guess we did all right. Guess we did all right. But you know what the problem was? College fund wasn't ready 2 years early. No. And so Jake and I were talking about, we need a way to help support our son on his next level. Because, see, I'd spent his entire life being his champion, being his nurturer, being that person that pushes him as far as he can go. And I did not want to become the limiting factor in his life. I did not want our lack of resources to be a limiting factor. He did everything he was supposed to do. So that's when we found the alliance. And I was pretty excited because at first it was like, how do we find a way for me to go back to work, but I can't work but 1 day a week because, y'all, I still have Heidi. And she gets therapy 5 days a week at home with like 3 or 4 different therapists every day, 5 days a week. And I can't outsource that. I have to be involved in that because we have to continue that therapy throughout the day when the therapists aren't there. And so I thought to myself, how do we find this, opportunity? And then our great friend Brandon Bulis just happened to talk to Jake about the alliance. And Jake's first impression was, but my wife might. That's what he said. He said, nah, but my wife might. And so we had a conversation about it. And I came to a hot spot, my first hot spot, just outside of Seattle. And that's where I met Fitz and Gina Hawks for the first time. And, they went through and talked about the opportunity and who I was doing it and how it worked. And I thought, they're crazy. People ain't making that kind of money, But I thought, you know what? If it's half as good as they say it is, it'd be worth a shot. And we trusted our friend Brandon, trusted him with our life, literally. They flew combat missions together. He took a deployment for my husband after he was supposed to be done with the military. He was supposed to be done deploying. And his wife and his children said, okay, one more, so that my husband could be at our son's graduation. He graduated from high school and college at the same time. Of course, this hadn't happened yet, but that's the kind of man he is. We knew his character. And so when Brandon said something's good, you get in on this. Something's good, you get in on it. And so we got our license, and that was in June of 2016, and I started part-time. I worked 1 day a week from June of 2016 through the end of December. And I made about, $21,000, $22,000, something like that. And I thought, that's solid part-time work. Not bad, 6 months part-time. Except my husband's smarter than I am. He said, you didn't work 6 months. I'm like, what do you mean, June to December? He said, yeah, you worked 1 day a week. You worked 26 days. I was offended. I felt like I worked hard, But here's what I know. I only had that 1 day a week, but I went to work that 1 day every week, and I worked the snot out of that day. I did, from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. every Saturday for 6 months. Y'all, I cried. I got lost in places I didn't know existed. I was scared at times. I went into some homes, y'all. You know. You run a business, But I did it every week. And soon, my family learned. Our extended family learned. Don't ask Belle to do something on Saturday. She's working. She's working. So my husband, being the genius as he is, okay, we didn't make $21,000 in 6 months. We made it in 26 days. So how do we work 26 days faster? We hired help so I could work 2 days a week. And so we hired my sister because, again, I have a special needs daughter. And at this time, she was progressing well. And so my sister could come in 1 day a week and help out with that. And that was actually good for my daughter's therapy and the progression she needed to be on. And so in 2017, I worked 2 days a week. And by June of that year, we had earned the trip to Hawaii. And I remember standing on that stage with all these other people, and I thought, this is pretty cool. I want to do this again. I can't wait to tell Jake, because, see, Jake was gone. He was in Afghanistan. When I was hired into this business, I was not the ideal person that most people look for. I was a stay-home mom with a special needs child. My husband was deployed. My hands were full. But they didn't know I was looking for an opportunity. Brandon came along at the right time with the right opportunity. So don't prejudge anybody in your life, because you don't know. You don't know. Well, you earned the trip. I was very excited. And it's like, you got to make sure to get leave. Because if you don't get leave, I will send you pictures. Because I'm going. I'm going. And so we went to Hawaii. And this was back when they give you, in case y'all don't know this, they give you spending money on these trips. And they used to give it cash. Now we got the ARC, and it's direct deposit. It doesn't look as cool. But when we got there, we checked in. They handed me an envelope of cash, and I was like, where I'm from, you hand this under the table, not over. They handed us the cash. That night, I forget what that little bag is called. It had treats in it, but we just lined up that they put presents on your bed every night. And so they put the present on the bed. We spread that cash out around it, the Lays that we gotten at the airport, and I thought, who gets to live like this? And baby, it's us. We get to live like this. I had learned through discipline of working, doing what I'm supposed to do, when I'm supposed to do it consistently, that you get rewards for that. See, the struggles are not in vain. The struggles will always be there. But when I started with so little, anybody else in here start part-time, got part-timers on your team, right? I would listen to these calls, and they'd say, you need to run, 20 appointments. I'm like, I got 1 day, dude. I felt like ecstatic if I had 6, right? That I was ecstatic. But this is what I learned. Philippians 4:19. And my God shall supply all your needs according to his riches in glory by Christ Jesus. It's not what we don't have holding us back. It's not using what we do have to its fullest that is holding us back. When you become disciplined in recognizing the resources you have, and you learn to turn your head away from all the things you don't have. See, that's a habit. It's a habit of looking at, well, I don't have that over there. You don't need that if you don't have it. You don't need it if you don't have it. Start with where you are. Start with what you've got, and you can level up. I had 1 day, and I worked the snot out of that day, and I learned the skills. I learned the attitudes. I learned the activities that I needed to do to be successful. And then I leveled up to 2 days. Yeah, we made $84,000 in 2017, me working 2 days a week. 2 days a week. That's when it opened our eyes that Jake could retire. Y'all, he got shot at for a living. Every time he would leave, I'd think of my 8-year-old asking, is Daddy going to die? He stopped asking on the outside, but we all asked it on the inside every single time. And now we have a shot. We have a shot at an exit strategy. If we put everything we have into this, we can do it. It's one of my favoriteest pictures. I don't know if that was 2018 or 2019. We went full-time in 2018, y'all, and I think we made $186,000 that year. But I remember this day. They had run a contest, and it was different levels, for hitting different recruiting goals and different production goals. And they had $250,000 stacked up on the stage in cash to hand out to people. And us and our great friends, Joe and Tony Walker, we got us some of that. and so all the work, all the times when it was part-time and getting no-showed and trying to figure this out, and like literally calling my mentors, pulled over, side the road, cried, what is wrong with me? How do I keep messing this up? What do I need to fix? Because see, discipline had always taught me it's not what's going on, it's how I'm handling what's going on. And so when I was crying and asking those questions were always rooted in what's within my circle, what can I control? Because it wasn't the leads, it wasn't the people I was seeing, it wasn't the products that we did or didn't have, it's how am I using what I've got? How am I being effective with what I already have so I can level up and have something else later? It's been an amazing ride. When you can make agency manager at the same time as some of your best friends, y'all, we're having a ball. I don't know if you guys are having fun. Hire your friends. It will be much more fun. Because we're having fun when we're working. We're having fun when we're on vacation. We're having fun everywhere. When you can start layering in your agency managers, start stacking them in. See, the other thing about discipline is the foundation of generational legacies. Without discipline, your results won't last. We've all had people that have shown up in our lives and they seemed like they were a true friend, or they seemed like somebody who was rock solid, or they seemed like they were an agent or a builder that would be, really in there, and then they just disappear. Because anybody can do a hard thing for a little while, but it takes commitment to keep doing it. It takes commitment to keep doing it. So it's not in the doing and the learning, it's the keep doing. It's even when you're still getting no-shows. Yeah, I still get no-shows, right? That doesn't go away. What changes is my skill level and my mindset. If someone says no to me, that's not a personal rejection. They just don't need what I have. It'd be no different than if I offered them coffee and they didn't want coffee. Doesn't mean they don't like me. They don't like coffee. We good? Moving on. Mindset shift. So when you have discipline in your life, you have discipline in your relationships, you have discipline in your faith, you have discipline in your work ethic, that's grit. That's grit. That's where it comes from. It builds on itself. It's the compound effect in your character that just keeps growing. It just keeps growing. And when things grow, here, y'all, they can grow. They can grow. Everything you need to succeed, it's already inside of you. It's already in there. Every tool that you need is already at your fingertips. The difference is, it's got to be wrung out. It's got to be wrung out. To get in deep where that resilience is, to get in deep where that confidence comes from, to get in deep where that faith is, you got to go through some stuff. So if you're looking for the stuff to go away, you're skipping the best part, because that's when it is wrung out. That is where you see what is inside of you for real. When my husband would fly his helicopter and they'd do training, he'd come back sometimes, he'd be giggling like a 12-year-old. I ain't gonna lie. And he'd say, oh, we flew it like we stole it tonight, right? And he told me, he said, I don't want the one time that I test the limits of my machine to be in the middle of a battle when lives depend on it. I need to test those limits now when it's fun. I need to test it now when there's not any extra lives on the line. Y'all, he could have crashed in training. I ain't gonna lie. People, they do that. He didn't, thank God. But you have to test your limits. If you wish away your difficulties, if you wish away your obstacles, you will not get to test your limits. You will not get to know what you are made of. You will not get to know the depth of what you're capable of. It scares me to think of what I could have wasted. It scares me to think that this may not have happened had we not struggled. When you're grateful for the rewards, you need to be grateful for the struggles that got you there. Without the hard, you can't overcome and get to the big stuff. But at the end of the day, that's not the legacy I want to leave. Those are pretty cool numbers, don't get me wrong. I called fits. I was weak in the knees, I was giggling and crying, and sometimes both at the same time. I ain't kidding, it messed me up, y'all. It messed me up. And but here's what I do know. Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, says the Lord, thoughts of peace and not evil, to give you a future and a hope. Don't always know what it's going to look like. Sometimes it's Jonah, sometimes it's David. It's a mixed bag, y'all. It's a mixed bag. I can't take that $192,000 to heaven. The only thing I can take to heaven is people. That's it. At the end of the day, the biggest mission. Who are you with on the other side? Who did you impact for good? Who did you introduce to an opportunity that would lead them to the people that would give the words of encouragement when their marriage was on the rocks? When they were on the brink of suicide? When they were at their lowest of their low? Who could you connect with? Who could be there for them? The Alliance is a great money-making machine. Y'all, if I can do it, I am from the public education system of southeastern Kentucky. There's a rocket scientist in the room. I am not one. If I can figure this out, if I can be dumb enough to say, okay, what's next? Okay, what's next? Anybody can do this. But it's not about the money. It's not about the numbers. It's about the people in the room. It's about how we hold each other up and how we hold each other accountable. It's about how we share how we overcame. It's about how we share those coping skills, the healthy ones. I got some unhealthy ones too. Don't judge. I'm working out my salvation. You work out yours. That's all there is. We look at our span of a lifetime. I'm so grateful. So grateful. Jake and I have gone through some things this year that have thrown us for a loop. He's had a couple surgeries this year. Very scary. But you know what? We had friends that showed up. I wasn't even the one who took him to the doctor. These men right here were. Mark Burroughs flew across the country back in March because the day of Jake's surgery got scheduled was our very first seminar. Of course, right? Of course. Marketing had gone out, 5,000 mailers, 200 people signed up, 100 million in assets coming in the door. My husband going in for surgery. Who's got your back in times like that? Our friends in the Alliance do. He's got another surgery comes up, right? Second surgery. Guess what? Another seminar. Already on the calendar. So guess who takes him to that one? Mr. Brandon Bulis. We got friends that have our back in life and in business. I serve a God that knows the beginning from the end and the end from the beginning. I have friends that I want to make sure get to the other side. That is the legacy I want to leave. That is what discipline has taught me. It has taught me to look at the bigger picture. It has taught me that while these things are temporary, the good and the bad, that 192 is temporary. It's a river. It's going to flow in. It's going to flow out, right? That bomb that went off, that was temporary. My daughter's diagnosis, Lord, the things she's overcome, temporary. Y'all, I do believe that is my time. Thank you.